So let me begin this by telling just a brief story. So a few months ago, my dad decided that he needed a smaller truck. He was driving a Toyota Tundra, and we decided that the best truck for him, the best value, would be to get a slightly used Nissan Frontier. Okay, so since my dad is not tech savvy, I go out and I try to find a truck for him somewhere in Southern California where I live. So I go, to all the typical places, Auto Trader and all the websites, and I look at some dealer websites. I find a few examples out there, but they look a little sketchy. I don't really feel like driving around to all these dealerships and dealing with their stuff. So I eventually landed on a site called Carvana. Now, I'd heard of it before and I knew somewhat about online car buying, but I never actually seriously used it or considered using it. So Carvana and other websites like Shift and Vroom, by the way, I have no affiliation with any of these companies. I'm just talking about my experience using them. So I found Carvana, and basically they have used cars for sale online. Now, what I found out is that the cars come from all over the United States, and you don't necessarily know where the car is when you order it. But anyway, long story short, I find a Frontier on there that looks perfect. It's the exact model, the color he wants. He wanted the King Cab 4-wheel drive with like no options. And so that was very hard to find. So the nice thing about the online car buying was that, it's nationwide. I'm able to look. So I found the truck. It had all these great pictures, great detail. I was able to read a Carfax report, go through all the details of the truck. And I actually ended up buying the truck for him on the website. And what I found was that when I went through, I was able to see exactly what I was paying and choose extra things that I wanted or didn't want in my case. And I didn't ever deal with a salesperson. It was my first experience buying a car online, and it was actually a really, really positive one. So let me tell you another story, and this is probably one that you're all familiar with. So you have an idea of the car you want, or maybe you just want to test drive cars. You think about buying a new car soon. So you go to a car dealership and you're greeted by somebody who's obviously working on commission because they're putting way too much pressure on you right from the start, right? Now, before I go any further, not all car dealerships are bad. Not all car salesmen are bad people. I don't mean that at all. There's a lot of great people and great dealerships out there, but there's also a lot of really crappy ones, if we're honest, and ones that really need to improve their customer service. So anyway, you go into one of these places, you're greeted by the guy wearing a polo shirt, and he wants to show you the cars. Long story short, you end up test driving a few cars, but they don't really have exactly what you want. But then they start to pressure you to try to buy something that's probably not right for you. Because in their mind, if you leave the dealership, they didn't do their job. They need to close a sale while you were there. So the last thing they want is for you to walk out that door, right? That's just how they are, good or bad. So they get you in there and then they try to get you on the payments, right? Oh, well, the payment could be this or that, and we'll lower your payment. Oh, what down payment do you want? So they take advantage of any sort of lack of knowledge that you might have about financing, cars, things like that. Also, what happens is you probably end up in a car that really you didn't go in for. So maybe you got upsold and got a more expensive car than you wanted. Maybe you're paying for options and features that you don't even understand what they are and why you need them. And they're going to tell you all this stuff about why they're so good. And when you finally get to the finance office to do the financing or whatever, do the paperwork, you get assaulted by yet another person who, because they have such huge commissions on these products, are trying to sell you gap insurance, extended warranties, paint protection, all this wheel locks, all this junk that they put on the car that honestly does you zero good as a consumer. All it does is jack up your price. And the way they try to sell it to you is, oh, well, your payment's only going up $50 a month. Well, think about that. $50 a month, that's $600 a year, or over a 6-year car loan, $3,600 that you paid for junk that you don't need. So that's the thing where they really get you. But what is all that stuff? You probably don't need it, so you get pressured to do that. And I didn't even mention this whole process is taking hours and hours, right? Now, once or twice in my life, I was able to do this in a short amount of time, but typically they drag it out for hours because they can't find the car you want, or they have to maybe get it from another dealership. Then they have to detail it. Then they have to, figure out all the paperwork, and then they go back and forth on the pricing. You got to haggle and go through all the stress of just trying to buy a car at a fair price, as opposed to most consumer goods you would buy. You know what the price is. You buy a jar of milk. You buy something on Amazon. You know what the price is up front. There's no stress involved. So why does car buying have to be so stressful? So the question is, are traditional car dealerships like I'm talking about, are they going to go away? And I think they probably will. And here's the reason why. So there's a number of factors right now that I think are converging that are going to potentially mean the end or the decline of the traditional car dealership. So the first thing is that people are getting more used to shopping from their home. It's comfortable, it's convenient, you can see the price, you can arrange a delivery. You don't have to leave the house and get dressed and go out, drive halfway across town and deal with all that drama of a car dealership. So that's one big thing. The other thing is that car dealerships obviously provide more than just car sales. They have a service and a parts department. Well, with the rising popularity of electric cars, and since that's the way everything is going, electric cars don't need as much service. Now, of course, dealerships and car companies and all that are going to figure out how to make money from you anyway on different things. But, there's no oil to change. There's no radiator fluid to change. There's no, transmission that goes out. So basically, electric cars don't need to go into a service department as much, which is going to cut into the profit margins of these dealers because they make a lot more money on service and parts and all that stuff they sell you in the finance office as well, as opposed to actually what they make you the commission of, selling the car to you. A third factor, I think, is price transparency. So when you buy a car online, whether you buy a new car, maybe you buy a Tesla, or maybe you buy a car through one of these dealerships that has an online car buying service, or whether you buy a used car from like Shift, Carvana, or Vroom, or any one of those places, the nice thing about it is that you can see exactly what price you're paying for what, and you're able to control that on your own pace and understand it as you go. So you can say, okay, here's my taxes, I understand that. Here's my document fee, here's my DMV fee, I understand that. And then you can choose with a simple checkbox of whether you want things like maybe an extended warranty, which, don't get me started, that's a whole nother soapbox. I hate those things. But anyway, if you did want that, you'd be able to select that and not have, Gus pressuring you, making you feel like you're an idiot for not buying it for 20 minutes, right? And you notice how in the car dealerships, they start at like $2,000 for the warranty, and then it goes down to $1,200, and then $800, and then $600. So just by that very fact, you know that it's all just profit, and it doesn't cost them anything to get it. So anyway, the price transparency is great because you can go through and see everything you're paying for before you actually click buy. You can arrange your financing on your own time. They'll let you use your own bank, or you can use one of the lenders that they work with. It just gives you a more relaxing environment to understand what you're doing and take more time with the purchase instead of being pressured by another person who supposedly knows what they're doing, but honestly, it's just there to maximize their commission. So it takes that whole stressful component, that wastes your money away. And I think that's another reason why online car buying is going to take over. A few more reasons I think online car buying is definitely the future. One is that it allows you to configure the car exactly as you want. So why is it that it's like only in cars are you pretty much being forced to buy something that really is not exactly what you wanted? The truth is there's so many options on cars, so many color choices, different packages you can get, trim levels, that why would you not just want to research that, investigate it on your own, look at the photos and videos online, look at all that, and then decide, okay, I want this trim level, these options, and this color, order it, and then have that delivered or pick that up in some amount of time. Isn't that better? Because then you could get exactly what you want. I mean, you're paying a huge amount of money to buy a new car, so why wouldn't you do that? Whereas at a dealership, it's like, well, we don't have that trim level right now, so you can get this color and this trim level, and we'll give you a little break on it, and it has these options, but you end up with something that, it wasn't exactly what you wanted, and you go home feeling a little bit cheated because you paid all this money and it wasn't exactly what you wanted. So I think that's a huge advantage of being able to configure, at least for new cars anyway, exactly what you want online. Another thing I didn't talk about is think about how inefficient a traditional car dealership is. So here's what I mean. All these cars, they're produced at the manufacturers, whatever, they have to be shipped out on trucks to these dealerships where they sit under the sun or in a huge parking garage in dirt lots. Of course, right now, because of the crazy state of the world, there's actually kind of a shortage of cars. But typically, and it'll go back to this, I guarantee you, there's like these cars just sitting around taking up these lots, right? And they're sitting in the sun, they're getting birds crapping on them. And this is expensive for the dealership. They're paying interest probably to have all those cars there, and then they got to go pull them out. The whole dealership model is a bit crazy if you really think about it that way. I guess there's a sense of instant gratification that maybe the dealerships provide to people, and that's possibly one downside. So talking about some of the downsides, so that gets me thinking about other downsides of online car buying. So there's a few. So one is that you know, like I was just saying, you don't get that instant gratification of walking in and driving away with a new car. So if that's something you really like, then, well, you still have that option, at least for now. The other downside potentially can be you kind of lose the in-person touch and feel aspect of it. So being able to go and like drive the car, you know, smell the leather, kind of see the different colors in person. Honestly, that is a very hard thing to replace online. No matter how good the images are and the videos are and all that, it's hard to replace that. Now, there are halfway point solutions to that, where like Tesla has places you can go and look at the cars and test drive them. Other manufacturers are doing that. So I think that part can mostly be remedied. So coming back to where I started the video, you know, I bought this Frontier online for my dad, and overall it was an awesome experience. The whole process was very fast. When I ended up going to pick up the car, I didn't have it delivered because there was a fee, so I ended up just driving to the car vending machine, they call it, and picking it up. I was there for like 20 minutes. I mean, it was so fast. They bring the car down, you drive it home, you sign like 1 or 2 things, you've done most of the paperwork already, and then they send the registration and plates to you on later in the mail. So really, it took all the stress out of it, and I thought that was really great. The other thing I liked about it was that I had 7 days to mechanically examine the car, right? See if, you know, there was any smoke smell in it, go change the oil, check the oil and the filters and all that, make sure that it's not rusted if it came from a part of the country that has salt on the roads. All those things, I had a whole week to do it. So at a dealership, they have something called no cooling off period, which basically means, you know, you can't bring the car back. Once you leave the dealership, that's it, it's yours, and you can't just bring it back for a refund, right? But with these online places, most of them are giving like the 7-day window, which is basically kind of like an extended test drive. You do a lot of paperwork up front, but what I found is that they didn't withdraw the money for quite a while. So they give you that time to evaluate the car. You can return it, no obligations, within that 7 days. That gave me a lot of comfort, especially buying a used car, that I had time to check it out, make sure it was a good vehicle that had been cared for before we actually like accepted it and, you know, did the final payment and things like that. So overall, my experience was really excellent, and I recommend it to other people, at least trying it out. You know, do your homework, know what kind of car you're going to buy, use that 7-day return period if it's a used car. And for new cars, I mean, let me know what. I really think that for our next new car, when we probably go to replace my wife's CX-5 in a few years with an electric car, probably we're just going to do it online. I don't see any point of going back to a dealership. I really don't have any wish to visit dealerships anymore. So let me know what all of you think. Is online car buying going to take over, and are traditional dealerships going to go by the wayside for all the reasons I mentioned? So let me know what you think. Are dealerships going away or not? I think it's a big question. It's a big elephant in the room that's really going to have major impacts on a lot of people's jobs and the economy as well. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I hope this video spurred some interesting conversations, some interesting discussions, some interesting thoughts. Please subscribe and hit the bell. Please consider Patreon. Please thumbs up and leave a comment. Until then, we'll see you on the next video.
Clark, is that the right car?
No, it isn't, honey. I changed my mind.
They flattened our old car like a pancake.
Are you serious? Is this really our car, Dad?
What happened? I thought we were gonna get the little sports thing.
Oh, no, the sports wagon was too small.